I started this series 4 months ago with part 1 coming out at the start of the year and part 2 only recently coming out. And this is something I've not always liked. I took that break in between 2 parts of a video, and I always intended this video to be a 40-minute, long form video anyway. So I thought I would combine them and re-upload them as a long form video as they were intended, and I hope that you guys enjoy that. So let's stop this intro and let's just get straight into what if The Rise of Skywalker were good. What if Episode 9 were good? Like, really good? What if, just like Belated Media once did for the prequels, we made a bunch of tweaks and took a deep dive into Episode 9 to see what changes we would make in an attempt to make the film better? In this case, I will basically be rewriting this film from start to finish. So I do want to mention that I'm just doing this for fun. While I may not have liked Episode 9, I'm certainly not saying that I would have liked this more, because I'm just some guy. I'm not a script writer, I'm just a Star Wars fan who basically wants to talk about a possible story that could have happened for Episode 9 that I think maybe with some development could have been alright. But yes, to reiterate, I'm just here for a bit of fun. Now, my first huge change is going to be that the title is being slashed. Rise of Skywalker is a decent title, but for what I'm going for in my version of the story, it just doesn't fit. For me, the focus of this story will be the Force, more so than the Skywalker family. The idea being that the Skywalker family aren't actually the reason all of this has happened. They aren't the important part of the universe. The Force is. Without the Force, the Skywalkers would really be nobodies, just a slave kid and later a farmer boy. So the title for my version of this film will be The Rise of the Force, or Rise of the Force, I guess makes a bit more sense. It's not the best title, but it's, just a representation of how I'm trying to change the themes of this last film. The crawl is going to establish where the major players are at right now. Kylo Ren is still the leader of the First Order, and he rules with an iron fist. The First Order have pretty much taken over the whole galaxy, to the point where I would say they're more powerful than the Empire at this point. Kylo Ren is also seen as a mass object of fear. What happened on Crate did hurt his reputation a little bit, but he's managed to keep the talk of that a bit down. This is almost a callback to real history, where leaders of fascist governments have attempted to censor things that have happened to them to try and keep that control. The Resistance basically have lost at this point. We're almost seeing the aftermath of a version of the original trilogy where the Empire won. We're almost seeing that really dark alternate story where basically the bad guys won. Rey isn't feeling that confident. She's used Luke Skywalker's Kyber Crystal to create a new dual-bladed lightsaber, but while she's an okay combatant and clearly still has that power and the Force that she had in the last movies, she just doesn't feel that she's confidently able to call herself a Jedi. Luke is gone, and Luke was the last Jedi, so how can Rey call herself a Jedi if there's no one to train her? She's clearly a Force user, but she doesn't know exactly who she is, which is a major thing for Rey. In all of these films, she's never known exactly who she is, and now she doesn't even have a title. She's Rey from nowhere, she's no one, and now she's not even a Jedi. Clips of Carrie Fisher will be used in the start of the film the same way they used them in The Rise of Skywalker, but Leia's character will pass away, unfortunately. This is obviously due to the circumstances of Carrie Fisher's untimely death. However, it also makes sense for the story. It really thrusts our characters into these leadership positions. It's like a mother bird pushing her baby bird out of the nest. It makes sure that Poe now has to be ready for leadership, if he feels it or not. Same goes for Finn and Rey. They no longer have that parenthood figure, and everyone in the Resistance is looking to them, and they don't really know what to say. So basically, we're going to see the rebels all on their base, which will be on Agent Kloss, because why not? And they're beaten. They're broken. I feel that, obviously, with a bit of coordination, The Last Jedi would have ended on a bit more of a somber note. It definitely had that hopeful note, But this will be a dark start to the film. The Resistance have lost, and then when we cut to Coruscant, which is now where the First Order are using as, I guess, their capital, we're going to see how much oppression there really is. This is sort of taking from the Colin Trevorrow script, and I'm going to take a couple of things from that script, because I thought that had a couple of really good ideas, and Coruscant is one of them. If you want to tie together all three trilogies, simply bringing back the villain from the other two trilogies isn't the best way about it. Palpatine will not be in my version. But a great way to do it would be to use a setting that was basically the main setting for all three of those first films. It's in the same way that the prequels brought back Tatooine. Tatooine could have been seen as the main planet of the original trilogy, so the prequels brought it back to tie the two trilogies together. But that's not what this film did. I mean, I guess Rise of Skywalker sort of had the weird Tatooine scene at the end, but that doesn't count. It's not a main location, and Coruscant is definitely going to be a main location in this version of the film, because for many of you who look into Star Wars lore, you'll know what's underneath the Jedi Temple, but I'll talk about that later. On Coruscant, we will see a huge ship which is basically shadowing the whole city. You'll see it looming over everyone. This is going to be a dark and very quiet version of Coruscant. We're not going to see many cars flying around like we had in the prequel trilogy. This is a dark setting. The upper levels are almost going to seem like the underworld in a way. They're going to be really shady, and there's going to be stormtroopers everywhere. On top of this, Kylo Ren has now constructed himself a new mask, and there is a reason in this version of the film as to why he does that. Quite simply, Kylo Ren wants to make sure he is a symbol of fear, and not seeing someone's face is a huge contributor to that. As well as this, Kylo Ren's confidence as a dark side Force user is rising, which is directly going to contrast Rey's confidence falling. Kylo Ren is about to enter his prime, and he's not going to stop. Things aren't going to end well for Kylo Ren in this movie. He's fallen into the dark path, the same way Anakin did. Now, in this version of the script, I am going to have a bit of Kylo Ren's redemption, but he's going to still have consequences for his actions. I think in the original film, yes, he died, but that's not enough consequence, and you're going to see how I handle his consequences later on. I can tell there's going to be a long video, but there's going to be a lot of good stuff here. We're going to see Hux, who has been basically sidelined, which is similar to the original film. He's been sidelined because really, Kylo Ren and Hux were in competition through both films, and now Kylo Ren has won said competition. So Hux has been put way down. He's simply the commander of one Star Destroyer, and that's it. We're going to go back to the Resistance and see heaps of people who are basically ready to leave the war, because what the First Order have done is they've placed the whole galaxy on a communications lockdown. How can they contact their allies if they're not even sure their allies are out there to start, and also they can't contact anyone? This idea is again being taken from the Colin Trevorrow script, but what the main three characters will want to do is go to steal a massive Star Destroyer that has the communications array on it that could contact others in the galaxy. So the whole Resistance gears up. And remember, this is all in the first 20 minutes of the film. We're not going to be wasting a lot of time here. We're not going to have MacGuffins. We're not going to have all these things that the original film had. It's pretty straight and to the point. These guys need to get their message out to somebody. But the question arises, what do they say? I mean, in the last film, in The Last Jedi, they tried to contact their allies and used Leia's code herself, but that didn't work. If Leia's call to help isn't going to work, then what can they say to rally people to the cause and rally their existing allies? And that's where Luke Skywalker plays a part. You see, in the last film, Luke Skywalker humiliated the leader of the First Order and seemingly took on the entire First Order army. So, that's the word they're going to get out. They're going to use the story of Luke Skywalker to push forward what's going on. They're going to try and recruit people using Luke Skywalker's message and using his voice. But Luke's dead, and the word of that would get out pretty quickly. So, what can they do to reignite that hope in the galaxy? Sure, they can tell the story of Luke Skywalker, but with Luke being gone, who's going to pick up that torch? The eyes directly go to Rey, and Rey doesn't know what to say. She doesn't feel like a Jedi. She doesn't feel like she'll ever be a Jedi. And she certainly doesn't feel like she's Luke Skywalker's successor. So she turns them down. But they're still going to go ahead and use Luke Skywalker's legend and use his story to push the cause forward. And that's pretty much what the first act will comprise of. They're going to travel to find this ship, they're going to infiltrate the ship, they're going to steal the ship, action, blast, blast, boom, boom, bunch of resistance fighters, and they're going to bring the ship back to their base and disable the trackers. They've now got the ship. Heading into Act 2, they make their message. They try and tell the galaxy about what happened with Luke, and they have a holo recording of Luke and Kylo Ren fighting. And this enrages Kylo Ren, because you can see him without his mask, and you see him losing, and losing his cool. You see, Kylo Ren is trying to build himself as this very feared figure that never breaks, never twitches, isn't affected by others. Almost like Darth Vader, this tall being that could just stare you down and slaughter you, basically. But now, Kylo Ren just looks like a child, and this, more than anything, makes him so angry. And because Kylo Ren uses his emotions way too much, and that's something we've seen Kylo Ren do constantly, he decides to open fire on the citizens of Coruscant. You may be wondering, why the hell would he do that? And the answer's simple. More fear. If the people are suddenly ridiculing Kylo Ren, and then he opens fire on innocents in a city, then they're gonna fear ridiculing Kylo Ren. And suddenly, the name Luke Skywalker just makes people fearful. They're worried that if they support him, then they're gonna face the same fate. And over the second act, the Resistance are starting to notice this. As they go to different planets to attempt to liberate them, they just tell them to go away. Because the First Order is too strong. The First Order will basically punish them for the Resistance's actions. The Resistance has grown a bit, by the way. Some people have heard their message and joined the cause, but definitely not enough to take on the First Order. However, at this point in the story, Kylo Ren and Rey have what seems to be another connected Force vision. But both of them know that neither of them initiated it. They look to the side and they both see something. They can't make it out, but they hear whispers, dark whispers, and what seems to be, to the viewers at least, a Sith temple. The whispers are getting louder. We hear the whispers say the words power over and over again. Rey looks at Kylo. Kylo is focused completely on this temple. And then the vision ends. But Kylo and Rey can still see each other. They look at each other, and then the vision completely ends, and they can no longer see each other. Now we've got two conflicting ideas between these two. Rey needs to go to that Sith temple and destroy whatever power's inside, and Kylo Ren needs to seize it. They both need to get to that temple, but where the hell would it be? Rey goes to Poe and Finn and says that she needs to go. That if she doesn't, Kylo Ren could become so powerful that he alone could take on the whole Resistance. She doesn't know what this thing is. So Poe, Finn, and Chewie say they're all going to go with her. And they travel, and they don't really know where they're going. They're out of the atmosphere and they're about to enter hyperspace. Finn asks Rey where are they going, and Rey says she doesn't know. They're all pretty confused. But then what Rey does is she uses the Force to guide the hyperdrive, and they enter hyperspace. Poe asks where they're going now, and Rey still doesn't know, but the Force will guide them. Meanwhile, Kylo Ren is pretty frantic. He's asking every researcher he's got to try and find any Sith temples that are around, try and find if there's any archive of a Sith temple. None are found. Kylo doesn't know what to do, because you see, Kylo can't just center himself and look the same way a Jedi could. But then he remembers Rey is going to go there. He tells the First Order to scan for the Falcon, but not to destroy it. Instead, he wants it tracked. Wherever Rey's going, he will find the power he needs. Rey will lead him there. However, Rey is closer than Kylo thinks, because as the Falcon comes out of hyperspace, they immediately hit Coruscant. The blockade around Coruscant is the biggest we've ever seen in pretty much all of Star Wars. And immediately they're being asked for their call sign, they're being asked for some sort of identification. Poe says to swing the ship around, they need to get out of there immediately, but the hyperdrive is cooling down still. But Rey says stop. She goes over the comlink, and through the comlink uses a Jedi mind trick. Almost the same way that Vader would use Force Choke through the screen, Rey is using a mind trick through the communicator. Somehow it works, and they fly past the masses of ships. Poe says that this fleet alone is the biggest he's ever seen. One blockade is bigger than this pilot has ever seen, and that scares him. They decide it's too dangerous to fly over the city, seeing how many surveillance ships there are, and they find a place to land. They're now on foot, and there are stormtroopers everywhere. However, there are also spies, and they're watching them. And then they report to Kylo Ren that they're on Coruscant, and Kylo Ren is definitely shocked. He goes to his researchers, and they tell him that according to some ancient myths, there is a Sith temple underneath the Jedi Temple of Coruscant. Kylo Ren laughs at the ignorance of the Jedi, and tells his staff to get his ship immediately. Kylo Ren takes his ship to the lower levels of Coruscant. Meanwhile, it's taking the Resistance a little while to get there, and as they get there, Kylo Ren is already deep inside. Poe, Finn, and Chewie stay outside, and Rey jumps in. Kylo is exploring this temple, trying to get to its core. He feels the dark side around him, and he feels more powerful. Rey, on the other hand, feels weaker and weaker by the second. Kylo feels himself getting closer and closer to what he's looking for, until he finds it. In the middle of the temple, he finds a Sith holocron. The room looks similar to where Ahsoka and Vader dueled in Star Wars Rebels. He grabs the holocron, and he hears the voice. He opens it, and then immediately it glows, and something comes out of it and seems to absorb into him. This is when Rey arrives. She runs and sees the masked Kylo holding the Sith holocron. He looks straight at her, and they have this very strange look. Rey is shocked and devastated that she didn't make it in time, and Kylo just blankly stares at her, with his mask just looking. Rey shouts out his name, Ben. Kylo does not answer. At this point, Ben feels dead. Kylo takes off his mask, and Rey sees the almost destroyed face of Ben Solo. It seems that the Sith energy that he just absorbed has accelerated the corruption process. His eyes are bright yellow, and you see the corruption completely take over his face. Kylo coldly says, Ben Solo is dead, and suddenly fires Force lightning directly at Rey. Not expecting it, Rey gets hit and flies backwards. As she struggles to stand, she turns on her saber, her dual blades glowing against the red. Kylo turns on his saber and they begin to duel. However, it's very clear that Kylo Ren is very easily outmatching Rey. Kylo Ren is completely overpowering her both in saber skill and force ability. This newfound power from the holocron is definitely helping him in the fight, but it's clear that he's also got a bit more skill and a lot more confidence. The battle continues, but Rey is knocked back. Kylo Ren completely destroys her saber with one stroke. On the floor, Rey sees her completely destroyed saber staff with just the crystal sitting on the floor. She uses the Force to pull the crystal towards her and she runs. Kylo slowly walks to chase her. His newfound confidence and power has just made him very sure that Next time they meet, he'll kill her. He doesn't even need to do it now. He contacts the First Order, and he tells them to destroy the Falcon next time they see it. He doesn't have to kill Rey anymore. He doesn't care. Kylo Ren's power is so high right now that everything seems below him, even defeating Rey. Rey makes it back to the ship with Poe, Finn, and Chewie, and they very narrowly escape after a big space battle, and they have to use hyperspace skipping to get out of there since the tires can track them through hyperspace. Rey, like her saber, is completely shattered. When they get back to the base, Rey says nothing to no one. Everyone really feels lost now. They may have the communication ship, and they are still able to use it, still, contacting other parts of the galaxy, but it's not seeming to work. It's pretty clear now to the rest of the galaxy that Luke Skywalker is dead, and that means that the message that Luke humiliated Kylo doesn't really matter anymore, because I guess Kylo got the last laugh in the end, since Luke Skywalker's no longer around. The galaxy is just as in fear as they were at the start of the film. The Resistance really has accomplished nothing. Rey is just sitting. She doesn't know what to do. At this point, she's no Jedi, and now she can't defeat Kylo. She has now lost the war, whereas before it was just the Resistance. Now she's lost the war too. She whispers to herself, "I failed you, Luke." She knows who Luke once was. She knows that Luke wasn't always against the Force, and she's apologizing to that Luke. And at that point, Luke's Force ghost appears. He states that she never failed him. That simply failure is a part of the training of a Jedi. Rey says she's no Jedi. She wasn't trained by a Jedi, and she can't live up to what the Jedi once were. But Luke says the opposite. Rey is a Jedi because she inspires hope if she allows herself to. It's not all about power, which Rey does have, but it's about a bit more. It's about discipline. It's about how you control your emotions. And this is where we can really take a deep dive into what it is to be a Jedi, as Luke explains to Rey that it's not all about swinging a lightsaber. It's not all about if she can defeat the Sith or not. It's about if she's pure at heart, which Luke believes she is. At this point, Rey doesn't really know, but she takes one thing to heart. She can inspire hope. The war may not be lost, because when faced by failure, you have to overcome it. And I want to quickly step back and talk about the sequel trilogy. We started by introducing the characters in The Force Awakens. The Last Jedi showed us how they fail, and now this new film, The Rise of the Force, is going to show how to overcome that failure, making one cohesive theme: the rise and fall of failure and how people can overcome it. Rey goes back to her quarters and she holds the kyber crystal that she retrieved from her saber. She goes into some drawers and she finds the remains of Luke Skywalker's old lightsaber, and she reconstructs it, she repairs it, almost like she did in The Rise of Skywalker. And now she also puts on some new clothing that still looks like the clothing she has worn in the previous films, but it looks a bit more Jedi-like. It looks a bit more official, I guess, more like robes. Rey goes out to see everyone in the Resistance, all not hopeful whatsoever. They're all ready to basically go home and accept what the galaxy now is when they all see her. And eyebrows are raised, but hopeful eyebrows. They see Rey and they realize that she's still in this fight, and that gives them all hope. The fact that the utter sight of her brought so much hope to those who she was working with makes her sure that it's time to make something that they can send out to the galaxy, a transmission that shows the Jedi are not dead, and that Rey is able to pick up Luke Skywalker's lightsaber and carry on his legacy, and that people just need to fight with them. Poe looks around and realizes that basically this is the time where they're in the end game, I guess, like Marvel, but they're in the end game. there's no other options. There's one more mission. And if they fail, well, they all die. But if they succeed, then that's it. They don't really have many other options except to give up. So he proposes an idea, almost a suicide mission, and he says that not everyone has to come, but they're going to try and rally the forces on Coruscant. They're going to try and take out that huge blockade, and they're going to try and take control again. They're trying to take down the First Order with Rey and Poe leading them. A lot of them say if Rey's in, they're in, and Rey is certainly in. And a lot of them decide they're going to go. One last mission to try and call on anyone who's going to help them. Again, similar to the Rise of Skywalker, but better. They go to the ship, and Rey's told that she's got one chance to make the best transmission she can, the best call to get anyone that's willing to fight to come to Coruscant. If this is a bad message, then they're just gonna leave hyperspace, see the ships, and get blown up immediately. This transmission is going to make the difference on if the battle's won, lost, if it takes a minute, if it takes an hour. This transmission is probably the most important transmission that Rey will ever make in her life. But she speaks like a true Jedi. She reignites hope in the galaxy, and she takes up Luke Skywalker's lightsaber, reignites it, and tells the people of the galaxy the Jedi are not dead. They all take off. The Star Destroyer that was once the transmission center of the First Order is now being used as a capital ship for the Resistance. All of the ships are loaded in, and they go to hyperspace to Coruscant. When they exit, they see the ships and they get the same message. They ask, "What, you're stolen by the Resistance? You better have a good reason why you're here, because that's what your code says." They prepare for the worst, and then silence. The ship is asked again, "Do you have a transmitter code? Are you the same ship that was stolen?" Silence. But then, on their right, one ship comes out of hyperspace. It seems to be some sort of military ship. And then another, and another, all with John Williams' score coming in and building. Suddenly, more and more ships are coming out of nowhere, all facing down the First Order, with the capital ship right in the middle. More and more ships are coming, just as many as we saw in the Rise of Skywalker, one at a time, and it's overwhelming. Poe didn't even expect this many ships, because at this point, just by amount of ships, they're basically equaling the First Order. Poe is in utter shock, but he goes to respond, "No, we don't have a clearance code." The ships start to accelerate, and they all go to fight down these First Order. Now, something I mentioned way at the start of the video is that Hux is commanding his own Star Destroyer, and we see a lot of Hux in the battle. We see him firing upon rebels, but he almost seems to be a bit disgruntled. I don't think that he likes that he is fighting for someone who's constantly trying to downplay him and eventually might kill him. Rey senses Kylo on the big ship, which has now left Coruscant and is now towering over the battle with a lot of power. And so, without telling anyone, Rey gets into a ship and she goes to infiltrate that one ship to try and destroy it, and hopefully also destroy Kylo Ren. However, we're still riding off the coattails of that massive reveal of all of those ships. So John Williams' score is still going, and all of these ships are just going to town. This is the biggest space battle we've ever seen. We see heaps of ships that seem unlikely to all go and attack one Star Destroyer and manage to take it down. We're going to see cameos of very specific ships. We're going to see the Ghost, and we're going to see people like Hera piloting it. Is it fan service? Yes, but it's fun fan service. Seeing someone piloting a ship isn't going to ruin it for someone who doesn't know about that character. But for people who do know about those characters, imagine the excitement. Imagine seeing Hera, or if you like the Star Wars Resistance show, maybe seeing Kaz. It'd be cool just to have these tiny little moments of fan service in such a big battle. We're also going to see something we haven't seen a lot of in live action, or I guess except the prequels, but we're going to see Trooper on Jedi attacks. We're going to see Rey fighting stormtroopers, blasting through them, almost like the Clone Wars generals did in the Clone Wars against droids. So we're going to see Rey fighting through a lot of stormtroopers before she makes it to the main generator room, and that is where she'll meet Kylo Ren. By the way, Kylo Ren once again has his mask on. Kylo and Rey face off against each other, and they once again go to fight. Rey is doing a little better than last time, and as the battle goes on, they actually seem quite evenly matched. However, later on in the battle, she is going to be weakened once again. But we'll cut back to the space battle, and again, huge battle, massive ships going down, and we're going to cut to General Hux. He orders his men to stop firing on the enemy. He has a new plan. He wants everyone to abandon ship. Everyone's confused because the ship's not that badly damaged, but he tells them to go and they listen. That's what happens in war, you listen to your generals. Hux then goes to take control of his ship. He's finally going to get the revenge on Kylo Ren he always wanted. Cut back to Rey and Kylo. They're still fighting in the generator rooms, and Rey is really trying to reach out to Ben. I think she secretly still believes that she can save him, but Ben's way too far gone. Kylo doesn't necessarily want to kill Rey, he still feels he can bring her to the dark side, but he is definitely not holding back from injuring her. As they continue to fight, he's getting nicks in, and it's burning the surface of Rey's skin. Rey knows that she still can't beat him. As they fight, Kylo disarms Rey, and her lightsaber goes flying. He then says that she's got one more chance to join him. She says never, she is a Jedi. And Kylo Ren says, very well. He goes to strike her down, but as he does, his blade, just before hitting his neck, gets stopped by what is Force Ghost Luke. Luke holds his saber and pushes him back before throwing him back with the Force. Kylo is very angered by seeing Luke once more. And then there are more Force Ghosts that start to appear. We see Obi-Wan, we see Yoda, and we see Anakin, as these are the Force Ghosts that exist in canon. And they all walk towards Kylo Ren quite menacingly, and Kylo is once again showing fear. Rey pulls her lightsaber towards her because now she's got the backup of 4 Force Ghosts. The Force Ghosts help her in battling Kylo, and Kylo isn't necessarily losing, but he is struggling a bit now. Kylo's able to use Force Lightning and other Force powers on the Force Ghosts, but they're mostly just evading. The fight is still focused on Rey and Kylo Ren, with the Force Ghosts supporting Rey. However, for a second, Rey gets the upper hand and slashes off Kylo Ren's mask, leaving him with another scar. However, as Darkseid users often do, this makes him very angry and makes him more powerful as he starts to wildly swing towards Rey. And at this moment we cut back to Hux, and Hux has taken over his ship controls and starts to blast it towards Kylo Ren's main ship. And as it heads towards it, it makes impact. The ship shatters on one side. It's not enough to destroy the ship, but it's quite a lot of damage. A Star Destroyer has just hit it. Rey and Kylo Ren fall backwards, and the ghosts tell Rey to go, and the ghosts now all fight Kylo Ren on their own. Rey runs towards the generators and uses her lightsaber to destroy them, making a huge explosion and throwing her back along with Kylo Ren. They're now in the fiery inferno of this generator room. The ship is on the brink of collapse. There doesn't seem like there's any survival for either of them, but they continue to fight. Rey is telling Ben to search his feelings. He needs to come back to the light. Kylo knows he's basically too far gone, but the ghosts know what Kylo did earlier. They tell him to stop listening to this holocron. It's not him. Kylo tells them to quiet, and so the ghosts go back to helping Rey in the fight. And due only to the ghosts' help, Rey manages to get the upper hand and disarm Kylo. Anakin says that they need to get the holocron's energy out of Kylo, but They need somewhere for it to go. Rey says, "What can you put it into?" And the ghosts remark, "Only a living thing." Rey knows that the only way they're getting it out of Kylo is if they put it into Rey. And she knows that if she destroys it while it's trying to transfer, it's probably going to kill her. But she's willing to do it to save Ben. And so Rey and the ghosts start to pull it out of Kylo. Now, this isn't completely why he's evil, I just want to say. The power that it brings and the mental manipulation that it brings isn't the only reason that Kylo Ren's evil. He's evil on his own, as he was for the past 2 films. But as they pull it out and Rey destroys it, basically killing herself for Kylo, it makes him realize that finally he's truly selflessly loved by someone. Kylo immediately mourns Rey. He knows what he's done for her, and he realizes that the dark path led only to destruction of someone who loved him. He asks the ghosts what he can do, and they sadly say nothing. There's nothing you can do to reverse this. And so Kylo carries her body out of the ship and manages to escape right as it explodes. The rebels manage to win the fight. All of the ships are destroyed, and they are celebrating. They've done it. Just a bunch of random people joining with a small force of rebels, and they have destroyed the First Order, at least on Coruscant. The fight still has more to go, but they're confident they can do it because now people will rise against this empire. They see Kylo's ship and they capture it in the tractor beam. Kylo surrenders himself, as well as surrendering the body of Rey. Everyone's shocked. He doesn't know what to do. They lock him up, and he has time to reflect. The reason Kylo Ren has turned back to the light is because of this realization. He's finally found his place, but that place has been destroyed. But he's realized the error of his ways. He's realized how the dark side destroys those around him. But he knows he has to face consequences for his actions. Rey's death alone isn't enough to pay for the hundreds that he's killed himself and the millions that he's caused the death of. This is where we fade to black, and we come back seeing a bearded Kylo. A bit of grey in his hair. It's clear a lot of time has passed. Kylo is looking over what seems to be a Jedi temple. He's committed himself back to the light path and he's training others, but he's haunted. He's haunted by what he caused. He's haunted by what he has done, but he's ready to move on. He will become the hope for the galaxy if he must. He was able to make the rest of the First Order stand down, which means that there has been peace, but at what cost? This is a very dark ending to this movie, and to this trilogy, but it's not necessarily the end of the story. There's room for more, because while it's dark, there is no more darkness. There is no more threat. The only threat now is Kylo Ren's self and him committing himself more to the light. So, on some notes, it's a happy ending. The galaxy is seeing peace, but for our characters, they've faced great tragedy, because that's what war is. It's happy for the rest of the galaxy, but not for the people heavily involved in the war. And I think that, again, highlights what it's like in real life. When wars happen and wars are won, it's great for the countries of people who have been protected or have won a war, but for the soldiers, for the people that were there, it changes them. And I think that's the tone that this film needs to take. It's showing the more human side to what Star Wars is, because it is still war. These people are haunted by what happened, and yes, it saved the galaxy, but it was a great sacrifice. And that's the real theme of the end of this movie. Our characters have sacrificed everything for the galaxy, and they've made the galaxy a better place because of it, and now Kylo Ren is training those who will maintain the peace in the galaxy at last. And that is how we end this film. Now, I understand there's still a bunch in the air, and the simple reason is because I don't really have the time to make this whole movie, even though this is a 40-minute video, which is kind of insane. But basically, the idea here is that I was trying to focus on Rey and Kylo, and also I guess the Resistance, but not particularly, Poe and Finn, and I don't know. That was just my story. I feel like that could have been an interesting story. I mean, would it have been good? Would it have translated well to screen? I guess we'll never know. But either way, I hope you guys enjoyed it for what it was. I hope you enjoyed, the story, the journey. This is a hugely long video, which I didn't really mean to do. I might split it into 2 parts. So if you want to see that, or I guess if you're hearing this, you would have already seen that. So if you're enjoying, or if you enjoyed this thing, leave some comments, please subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.